Hello and welcome to UGASports Rumors versus Facts, presented by Auto Owners Insurance in cooperation with Turner Wood & Smith Insurance. And we'll tell you more on that as we get into the show here. But I'm Blaine Gilmer here with Jed May and Trent Smallwood. We're here talking UGA football recruiting as Georgia gets prepared for another home game. And that means another chance to have visitors, prospects on campus, be around the program, things of that nature. And we lost Trent's camera there for a second. I'm sure he'll be right back. This always happens. Something goes on, but hey, we're adapting. Adapt and overcome. You know what I'm saying right there, Jed? Jed, how you doing tonight, man?
Doing good. You mentioned another home game this weekend. Should be better weather, at least, than the Sanford game. And a couple of guys have already put out that they'll be in town. A couple of young guys, Julian Lewis, quarterback out of Carrollton, 26 guy, and Cortez Smith, a 25 lineman out of Parkview. Both of those also attended Georgia season opener against Oregon in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So now they're getting a chance to get on campus. And sure, we're going to have a bunch of other visitors announced throughout the week. So keep it locked to the vault to see who's going to be in Athens this weekend, other than myself.
Absolutely. So I'll be there this weekend too. Just a little different, different capacity, bringing the kiddos to a game this weekend. They're wanting to see what's going on, so won't be going and working this one.
Oh my God.
We lost Trent again. Trent, are you still? Can you hear us, or is it just the camera? Okay, we're going to take Trent off for a second. I don't know what's going on with his camera there, but anyways, guys, back to what we were talking about. A weekend of a home game here in Athens, like Jed said. Julian Lewis, 2026 quarterback. He's going to be in town. Cortez Smith, 2024 offensive lineman, or 25 offensive lineman. Yeah, young guy. And then also I got confirmation on Ryan Montgomery, a class of 2025 quarterback. He will be in town for the Auburn game. So, Jed, not only are they going to be bringing in people for this Kent State game, but that Auburn weekend is shaping up to be a monstrous visit weekend for Georgia.
Auburn and Tennessee, I mean, those are the two real, when you look at the schedule, the two marquee home weekends. And Tennessee, I've already got a couple guys written down. Aaron White from California, 25 corner. Parker Livingstone out of, I believe, Texas, I think, Blaine, is going to be in town.
Yeah, he'll be in town for Tennessee. Yep.
And then David Hobbs, a 2023 edge I went and saw play on Friday night, is taking his official visit to Georgia that weekend, just a couple weeks before he's planning to commit. So already those two games are shaping up to be huge, and that makes sense, right? Because these first two games are, not counting the Oregon game, are non-conference, obviously lesser opponents, a chance to really get some young guys in town. And Samuel Mpemba, who randomly, or not randomly, but was by far the headliner last weekend. So yeah, as we get into conference play, we're going to see these visitor lists get more and more star-studded, things like that.
Going to try one more time to bring on our man Trent Smallwood with us. Trent, are you with us, man?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I'm here.
You're here. For how long? Who knows? I had some technical difficulties over there at Trent's place. But now, Trent, we were just talking about some of the visitors that are going to be coming, and how big that Auburn weekend's going to be. Also, Tennessee, with those being the more, well, at least on surface, what looked like marquee matchups after what Penn State absolutely just railroaded Auburn over there. I think it's going to be kind of similar to that South Carolina performance this past weekend when Georgia plays Auburn at Sanford Stadium.
Yeah, but at least the games like South Carolina hosting all these big recruits, at least you're the team giving out the beatdown in these big games. But yeah, I think, looking at Georgia's schedule, Tennessee will be a big one. Auburn will be a big recruiting weekend. That's really the only two you have. And, this weekend there will be some guys on campus, but you'll more likely see a bunch of younger guys and given the opportunity to get some, working your way down classes and building relationships like Kirby and the staff know how to do.
Absolutely. It's going to be, anytime you can get guys on campus, it's a big deal. Guys, I want to mention, though, that before we get into all of our stuff, like I said, this show is brought to you by Auto Owners Insurance in cooperation with Turner Wood & Smith Insurance. Guys, Turner Wood & Smith, located in Gainesville, Georgia, where their headquarters is. fantastic customer service. You can call up Trey Wood, Scotty Hall, any of those guys over there, and they're going to be able to help you with the problem that you have and get you connected with a fine policy provider such as Auto Owners. Life, home, car, business, takes care of all of it. I can speak from personal experience. Both these companies, they'll treat you right. Over 100 years of experience in existence for both of them. So make sure to check out Turner Wood & Smith, Auto Owners Insurance, sponsors here of the UGA Sports Rumors versus Facts show. But now, guys, it's time to dive into what is going to be coming up this weekend, and also touch on some of the latest that we're hearing on some of the key prospects remaining in the class of 2023. Lots of people want to talk about the skill positions. Tyler Williams committing one way or another in about 8 days. On the 27th is when he's set to commit. Jed, I know we're going to have questions on that and things of that nature, but being a guy down there in Florida, even though Georgia has seemed like they've been a prohibitive favorite for a while, I'm sure as it gets closer and closer, those Florida schools try to get back in things and try to put the screws to them, so to speak, trying to get into that recruitment at the last minute.
Yeah, and especially you look at a school like Florida State, what they've done. I mean, we talk about Georgia doing things on the field. Florida State's 3-0, and I don't know how many people really thought Florida State would be 3-0 at this moment. There's Florida State, there's Miami. But yeah, Georgia's been a prohibitive favorite, but every time we've written an article about him playing, we've mentioned that Brian McClendon offered him literally day one. He took the job, and has made him a priority since. And when you look at the way some of these receivers are trending, Hakeem Williams is committing soon, trending away from Georgia. Jalen Hale is committing soon, trending away from Georgia. So Tyler Williams has kind of become that guy that's, I don't want to say make or break this receiver class, because there's some talented guys there, but like from a good to great receiver class, or he's a guy that takes this class up another level. If they land a guy like him, and like you said, Georgia's the favorite. There's still a week to go. Anything can happen. I mean, we saw it with Anthony Evans 3 weeks ago, right? Georgia was the favorite until it wasn't, literally in the final hours there. So right now, Georgia's the favorite, and all anyone can really do is just go with that unless someone swoops in at the last minute. I like where Georgia sits here.
Absolutely. It's Georgia has built a strong relationship with not only Tyler Williams, but his mother as well. It seems like everybody is speaking Kirby Ease over there out of the Williams household. I mean, everything you hear is stuff the points that you would hear Georgia make and sell, in terms of, earning things on the field, making the money in the pros instead of big money and all that kind of stuff. It kind of aligns up, not going to the highest bidder. All of these things are said in this recruitment. So it seems like everything would be pointing in the direction of Georgia with how they are approaching things. But Trent, I do want to say that and we had I think it was the boy racer on the vault pointed out today, as it gets deeper and deeper, some of these other schools, for lack of a better term, have kind of already shot their shot at these guys with the NIL money, and Kirby Smart and company kind of slow playing that kind of stuff a little bit. The Classic City Collective, I wouldn't be surprised if some of that ramps up a little bit closer to December, and maybe try to impact some guys that are, big guys that are still out there uncommitted, or guys that are committed elsewhere.
Yeah, I think he'll take that opportunity to use that in his advantage when it gets closer to December, looking at the positions he needs to fill in this class. Maybe looking at another offensive lineman, maybe getting down to a wide receiver like we've been talking about. I don't think that Anthony Evans, you brought up Anthony Evans. I don't think that's over with. I mean, he is committed elsewhere. He did pick a team over Georgia, but there is still communications there. I've said that on the vault. So I know there's a lot of stuff going on, but I do think with this Classic City Collective, that is something that could. I don't think you'll hear much about it until you get closer to signing day, and Kirby can really use that as an advantage when it gets time to kind of see what those remaining prospects, what holes he needs to fill, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and for sure, we're never going to know the complete details on all of the NIL stuff until they pass some kind of legislation that says, hey, all the NIL deals have to be reported, have to be public, all that kind of stuff, which I think it will one day go to, because it's going to be like, I mean, these guys are going to pay tax on this money and all this kind of stuff anyway. So I think one day they'll have to report all the NIL deals. It'll be basically like a database of stuff. And that's the only way that listen, at some point in time, no matter what the system is, there's going to be people that find ways to cheat it. Okay. There's going to be ways to circumvent it. But if you make it more and more open in terms of, okay, more transparency, here's where everything is, then I think, less of this, conspiracy theories on Texas ATM and all this kind of stuff that goes on out there. Because, hey, there may be a candidate, or there may be a candidate out there that does go for some of that kind of stuff. But I think a lot of these kids still are adhering, Jed, to some of the more traditional elements of recruiting with a little bit of NIL sprinkled in. I think that's more the majority than some of the others.
Yeah, and that's it differs every kid, right? You look at receiver, for a receiver, there might be one receiver like Tyler Williams. I know his mom had a tweet, honestly, it was a couple months ago, basically saying, I'm not going to like sell my son to the highest bidder, essentially, when it comes to NIL. So that's some people's priorities. Some people look at NIL as more of a priority, and that's everyone's prerogative, right? But Kirby Smart had a quote about NIL today. I want to read it. He said, I felt like NIL was 20 to 30% of the conversation last year, and it's certainly higher than that now. So even Kirby Smart has noticed that NIL is becoming more and more of a conversation with these kids who have not grown up with it, but have had it involved in their recruitment for a longer period of time. So like you said, the Classic City collectives out there, that's going to be something that I think, because they've obviously gotten their ducks in a row with that, right? The longer it's been involved. So that's going to be something that Kirby and company could really break out more as we get closer to that December signing day.
Absolutely. Now let's go ahead and start hitting some of these questions from the vault here. Also, people on YouTube chat, check in with us. Tell us where you're watching from. I know that we had Phenom Unit says he's in from Gilmer County. We got Madison County, your neck of the woods over there with Robbie Daniel Jed. He's tuning in. Randy Payne from Tifton, Georgia. So we appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. Make sure to throw in anything you want commented on, any questions you have in the YouTube chat. But we're also going to hit our vault questions first, because those are the members of the UGASports.com website that are loyally asking questions on the vault, and we want to make sure we address those first. And we're going to start off, Jed, with OU Herschel Walker.
Yeah, first want to make sure I got a shout out to my guy Robbie Daniel, Madison County, Colbert, GA. Lunch at Billy Meadow Station anytime on me, buddy. OU Herschel Walker, have the last 3 games changed the perception of Georgia's offense in the eyes of any receiver and running back recruits? And then for you, Blaine, wrestling best bad guy.
Race, Von Raschke, Koloff,
go for
it. Hogan, and Flair. I mean, it's got to be, you may not like his in-ring work, but Hollywood Hulk Hogan is the greatest heel of all time. He did the most in terms of the most money, the most box office. The guy was bonkers, off the charts. I think in terms of the in-ring work and how the promos and stuff, you got to go with Flair. Harley Race isn't a bad one either, even when he was doing some of his managing work with Van Vader. But anyways, I'll have somebody commenting on YouTube about why are we talking about professional wrestling, all that kind of stuff. Anyways, have the last 3 games changed the perception with Georgia's offense for wide receivers and running backs? Guys, I've talked mainly to younger quarterbacks about the offensive situation. I have talked to a couple wide receivers here lately. Jed, I know you went and covered Mike Matthews, so I guess we can talk from his perspective. But I know Julian Lewis, Ryan Montgomery, some of these younger quarterbacks that are coming in the class of 25, 26 class that are going out there, they're definitely taking notice of how Georgia's throwing the football and things like that. And in fact, there was a stat out there today that the last quarterback to throw for 250 yards and have a rushing touchdown in 3 consecutive games was Pat Mahomes until Stetson Bennett has done it in these first 3 games. So Georgia's definitely producing at the quarterback position. But Jed, and then Trent, you can take it after that. But Jed, what do you think? Is this offensive output changing perception of Georgia and some of these skill kids?
Yeah, something I've noticed and really noticed at South Carolina in particular, like, okay, Carson Beck comes in with, I want to say, like 7 minutes left in the third quarter, and starts throwing deep shots. Like, he had a deep one to Ladd McConkey, or no, not Ladd McConkey, to Dylan Bell that drew a pass interference. He had a ball to Oscar Delp to really, salt the wounds of Shane Beamer. Like, Georgia still, they put the backups in, but they didn't really quit running the offense at any point. And that's something we talked about in the offseason. Remember, is Kirby still going to do this whole get up by 25, 30 points and turtle up kind of thing? So
Trent, to Jed's point, Kirby's trying to crush people's souls now. That's what he's going after. He's just trying to break their will and make them never want to play again.
Yeah, and we talked about in the offseason that we thought that would change because they heard all the talk. Last year there wasn't much difference within the pass run. Yet they did run it a little bit more last year and a little bit more effective. But with the pass, Georgia was more pass than run in the first halves of last year's game, but it looked like Georgia was still in their downhill running style, 60-40 run to pass because of the second halves. And I said, I think that will change because Kirby has seen the negative recruiting, the impacts in recruiting at the wide receiver position, and it's definitely changed. The couple of things that I've come across just talking to a couple of high school coaches is what I've heard over and over is best coach team in the country. They look like the best coach team in the country. And I think that's, props to the staff. And that's another thing that could hit on the recruiting trail because there's nobody that looks more prepared to play week in and week out up to this point than Kirby Smart's Georgia Bulldogs right now.
And that goes to your point to the backups as well, because when Carson Beck has come in this year, like Jed said, it has been on point, just firing the ball a lot over the middle in that Oregon game, but then taking a shot deep with Oscar Delp. And one thing I've noticed, Jed, and you've been there for these press conferences, Kirby is not shy to highlight some of those guys and kind of talk about the production that they are putting in and the work they're putting in at practice and stuff like that, because what Kirby is trying to sell to these recruits is, hey, you're not guaranteed to come in here and play. He said this about quarterback recruiting. You're not guaranteed to come in here and play, but you're guaranteed to come in here and get developed. And I think that's what you're seeing out of Carson Beck right now.
Yeah, and that's what they try to sell. That goes for quarterbacks, that goes for guys in the trenches. It's that stupid old cliche, right? Iron sharpens iron, and it's super lame. But like when you're a offensive tackle, like say you're Jacob Hood, you're on the scout team and you're going against Nolan Smith, Robert Beal, Chaz Chambliss, MJ Sherman, like that gets you better. If you're a defensive lineman, you're going against Broderick Jones and Amarius Mims and Warren McClendon and Cedric Van Pran. That gets you better. And that's what Kirby Smart tries to sell these guys. Like you said, Wayne, you're not going to be guaranteed to come in and play as a freshman. You could play as a freshman. Michael Williams is starting as a freshman. Malachi Starks. Dylan Bell is playing as a freshman.
And Alan Morissette has been not in garbage time either. He's been actually getting some reps in there. He just hadn't had a catch yet.
You can earn it, but the main point is Kirby said it before, NFL scouts don't care how much you play as a true freshman. They care what you look like year 3, year 4 when you're going to the NFL, and that's what he's selling, and that's the type of guys that he brings into the program, and you're starting to see that whole program mindset come into place. One more shout out, Randy Gibson from Isla GA, home of baseball legend Jake Westbrook, and also my grandmother. So shout out to Isla GA on the show tonight.
I think Georgia's offense is as good as it is today because of last year's defense.
Oh yeah.
Because they had to go up against those guys every day in practice. And plus the backups were more prepared to play because they got that playing time when in the blowout wins last year. They got the playing time against this more, I guess, older offense with Stetson Bennett leading the helm. But this offense is what it is today because of what it went up against day in and day out last year.
And I spoke to DeBron Gatlin at Milton before his game the other night against Alpharetta, and he's a class of 2024 wide receiver that's wanted by the likes of Alabama, Tennessee, some of these offenses that people think are more high flying and stuff like that. But he did mention, he said he's been really impressed with what Georgia has been doing offensively and what Coach McClendon has been selling him on things. So yes, we in a long answer there, OU Herschel Walker, I think it is changing the perception a little bit there. Now Pine Tree says, can you rattle off any flip candidates the staff is going hard after? I think the first place we have to start, of course, is Roderick Robinson, the second running back currently committed to UCLA. We were the first ones to report back on August 6th that he was saying, hey, I think I'm going to come out to the Auburn game for official visit weekend. Me and my whole family, we got that story, posted it on the vault again today, just so everybody could refresh on that a little bit. But he's a big back, Trent, someone that's went gangbusters here at the start of the season, just putting up all kinds of yardage, and is even for a bigger guy, talking 6'1", 230, 235 pounds, he can still catch the ball at the backfield. So very, very dynamic. Yeah.
He would be one we're looking at, and I think you still got to look at Anthony Evans. I think running back is a position that I'm gonna watch closely, over the next couple months, because there is some uncommitted guys, but I do think Georgia flips a guy there. I'm not saying necessarily Roderick, but I do think Georgia flips a guy there to get a commitment by the end of this class. And
Justice Haynes is not being given up on yet by Dell McGee in the slightest.
Yeah, Justice Haynes and Roderick, and there's a few more that Georgia's going to go out and explore, and whether it be in state or out of state. But I do think there will be a flip at that position before all said and done.
I mean, there's some running backs in the state of Georgia that are having good years that Jamarian Wilcox isn't committed anywhere yet. He did get an offer from Clemson, even though, Jed, I did put a note on the vault. It almost feels like if Georgia was going to get in that one, they would have already done so at this point. So I'm not saying to hold your breath on that one. And then the young man that's committed to West Virginia from Louis, another Georgia running back in the state of Georgia that's had a terrific start of the year. So just some names to kind of keep an eye on in state there, Jed.
Yeah. And like Trent said, keep an eye on Anthony Evans. I don't think Georgia's done communicating with Xavier McLeod, defensive lineman who's committed to South Carolina. Yeah, I mean, there's, the thing is, there's guys that are going to come up and everything like that. But like you said, it's really looking at that running back position now that I really think they're honing in on, because it's Robinson, Louis, somebody else that we don't really know as far as a flip goes. But that's a position I think they're going to work really hard to flip and land a top tier quality dude.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I wouldn't put it past them to maybe end up with a member of the secondary that's committed elsewhere, flipping before it's over with, an edge guy possibly. I think, whether it's corner, whether it's at corner, whether it's on the edge, running back, or receiver, I think those are your main ones. Could possibly see another offensive lineman. They've already flipped Joshua Miller from Penn State earlier in the class. So we shall see how that turns out. Now let's get to our next question here. It's from Drew Yang 96 there, Jed.
Yeah, as of today, what is your prediction for Tyler Williams and Roderick Robinson?
Yes, I mean, we kind of touched on that. I think as of today, if I could put in on Rivals, if I could put in a prediction for a flip, I think I would predict that Roderick Robinson's going to flip to Georgia. I mean, especially if he does, in fact, as he told us back in August, end up coming on that official visit to Georgia for that Auburn game. Trent, it's going to be a totally different atmosphere. I mean, at the Rose Bowl these past couple of weeks for UCLA, you could have shot a shotgun and not killed anybody. I mean, it is absolutely just a terrible atmosphere.
Yeah, it is. It's not good. That they said that the opening game, I think they've averaged having 70,000 there, and there was, it was said that there was 40,000 there, and I highly doubt that there was that many there. The way the stadium looks, so things are not going good over at UCLA for sure.
No, it's that I would be surprised if he stays committed to them through the process. But Tyler Williams, we've already touched on that. I think he is going to land with Georgia as of at least today. But Miami is pushing hard, and we know that Miami, despite what Williams and his crew have said, is that NIL is not the most important thing in their decision, things like that. Sometimes, going back to a wrestling thing, the $1 Million Man used to say, Trent, everybody's got a price. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what happens.
Plus, it's home, and it is down in Florida, and Miami is trying to kind of build its foundation under a new coaching staff. They had a chance to go on the road to Texas A&M this weekend and kind of solidify themselves as a major contender, but and wasn't able to do so. But I still like where Georgia stands there.
No doubt. All right, Jay, we got one from GDog09.
Yeah, I am very excited about Dalen Everett, but thought Jaheim Singletary would be the guy in the last class. Any insight on his progress?
So not necessarily a recruiting question here, Jed. You're more in those press conferences and stuff like that. Do you recall any talk about Singletary from Kirby and any of those things? I know that Singletary is a little bit slender. So I would think that maybe adding some muscle and things like that may be what's preventing some acceleration of the process there. Anything that comes to mind that's been said, Jed?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing is Kirby said this about a lot of freshmen. They just need to play, right? And Julian Humphrey too, and Jaheim Singletary. They're guys who, if I'm not mistaken, they did not early enroll. They didn't get to Athens till the summer, so that sets you back a little bit. Which you look at Dalen Everett was here in the spring and is a little bit farther along. So I wouldn't read anything to that as far as calling Jaheim Singletary a bust or whatever. It's just one of those things where, and also there's a lot of guys, there's a lot of good players in that secondary, right? You've got Keely Ringo, Dalen
Kamari
Lassiter. Yeah, it's not like Georgia's a secondary, although it did lose a couple of guys. It's not like it's bereft of talent, right? So they're going to progress. I think year 1 to year 2 with a full spring and off season and everything is a year where you could see a step from those guys. But there's so much defensive back talent brought in that last class. It's going to be interesting to see how it all ends up shaking out, through all those guys' careers.
I think we look at recruiting rankings and say, I thought, this guy or that guy is going to be that guy. But I think I could have, I saw Dalen Everett down in Orlando at the Under Armour game, and he looked like just with you said being slender, he looked like he was ready to play in his physical day one. I mean, he was he looked like a Georgia corner that's already there. So it doesn't surprise me that he's seeing the field faster. I still think Jaheim Singletary has a very high ceiling, and that's where those lofty rankings come from. I think he can reach those goals. He still has a ton of upside. He just got some room to make, from a physical standpoint to get there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think, a little strength and development, strength and conditioning over there in Georgia, nutrition program, all that kind of stuff. It's amazing to see where guys go from year 1 to year 2 in the program. I mean, look at Tyron Ingram Dawkins. He's a guy that came in, maybe he had a little bit of baby fat on him, was not in the greatest shape at all. But now, I mean, he that was an impressive play. He tackles the running back for South Carolina in the backfield, or wraps him up and then just runs him 20 yards back in the backfield behind things. That's one of those where you're like, all right, is he about to sling him down right here and get the 15-yarder at the end of it? But, wise beyond his years, let him go at the echo of the whistle there. So it's just fascinating to see. So Lord knows, can only imagine what Michael Williams is going to look like at this point next year, with that being the case. That he came in as a grown man for sure. So interesting stuff on the development of everything. Appreciate that question, GDog09. Boy Racer 45 says, believe Beau Hughley was at the Auburn game last week. LOL. Anything to worry about with him, or just a guy enjoying his visits? What is your best guess on the number of wide receivers in this class? So Beau Hughley went and saw Auburn get their brains beat out over there on the plains by Penn State. We've heard some interesting things about Beau Hughley's visits to Auburn before and stuff like that. I can't imagine that this helped the Tigers, the Plainsmen, War Eagles, whatever mascot they want to decide on a given day, that it helped their chances with Hughley. And there's major rumblings coming out that, especially if, Lord forbid Auburn loses to Missouri this week, guys, because if they do, Auburn may pull a Arizona State and fire Harsin as he's coming off the field, like the Sun Devils did with Herm Edwards. So, guys, what's your thoughts on Beau Hughley visiting Auburn?
Yeah, Beau Hughley has been at Auburn a lot. Like, you talk about flipping or what. I think it's Georgia or Auburn. I don't think it's those two. You can look at it from two ways, right? You can say, okay, Auburn's O-line stinks. They can pitch Beau Hughley on, hey, you can come in and play early as a freshman. On the flip side, it seems extremely unlikely that Brian Harsin makes it to the end of the season at this point, let alone to the 2023 campaign. So then it's like, okay, what coach and what staff is he going to play for? So, I definitely don't think it's just a guy necessarily enjoying his visits. I think there is
there's some interest.
There's some interest, yeah, and you can't fault the kid for wanting to explore things that exploring other programs might be interested in. Because he was at their big like a cookout weekend, kind of similar to what Georgia had, and it seemed then that the flip talk was the most evident. It didn't happen then, so you feel like if Georgia withstood that storm, it'll be able to battle things out through the end, especially once Georgia is now on the field and doing things and stuff. I don't think it's necessarily over. Like, I wouldn't count Auburn out of it necessarily until he puts pen to paper. But right now, if you made me pick one way or the other, I still would see him ending up in Georgia's class.
I think Auburn felt that was going to go in a total different direction on Saturday.
Yeah. I'll have to say I did too. I thought it was going to go in a different direction too. I did. I thought this. I've seen too many times the magic of Jordan-Hare Stadium. I thought that crazy things happened in there. Man, they got owned, except for that Owen Papo just decleating of Sean Clifford. After that, everything was downhill.
The thing is, it's not like Penn State is Penn State of old, right? Like, there's plenty of questions about Penn State coming into that game, and you look at it at halftime, it was what, 14-6 at halftime, I think, and then Penn State just blows it open in the second half and runs it down Auburn's throat, and Auburn was pretty much helpless on offense and defense. So
I know you see the video of Eli Manning, dressing up as a walk-on.
Hilarious. That's great.
I haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna watch it later.
You hadn't seen that? You watch that Eli Manning going undercover as a walk-on tryouts over there. His name was Chad Powers, is who he went dressed up as. So it's very
5'4", 40.
Listen, but that was real. That wasn't fake right there.
Yeah, that wasn't part of the act.
If think how good Penn State could be if Georgia didn't keep flipping their prospects. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they've lost several to Georgia over the year that they would love to be having playing for the Nittany Lions right now. So yeah, and then in terms of the numbers of wide receivers, I feel like it's going to be 4 in the class in terms of out of high school, but I do think they'll add one in the transfer portal. I also think they'll add a running back in the transfer portal this offseason. I think you're going to see Georgia be very, very active in the transfer portal between the 2022 and 2023 season.
Yeah, I could see five wide receivers total, between what they need to bring in for next year, whether it be in this class or transfer portal. But I think 4 will be the number in this class, like you said. And there's going to be a lot of players available in the portal, in my opinion. I think there'll be a lot of players available from the SEC in the portal. But I think there's going to be a lot of coaching turnover. There already is some coaching turnover, and there is some. You saw those 4 players, including Smoke Bowie, being suspended
And
on
Evan Stewart.
Evan Stewart being suspended at Texas A&M, and stuff just doesn't seem to be clicking over there, even though they got the win this past Saturday. So you're probably going to see some portal action before all said and done within the SEC and even outside of it.
Merle Haggard had the great hit. If we can make it through December, I think Brian Harsin is trying to just make it through September, and I don't know if he's going to make it, guys. It's going to be interesting over there. Jed Georgia King asked over here, what do you think our chances are on signing 5-star Deuce Robinson from California? You're our national analyst over here, Jed. So what's going on over on the West Coast?
Yeah, I think that's a guy that we've looked at and we've talked about before. The only way Georgia would take him is before it was if they lost a tight end to the portal in the offseason. That didn't happen. So now you look at it.
And they would take him, but I don't know if it's going to.
They would theoretically take him. I don't know that they're going to end up getting a 3rd tight end in this class because you've got Spurlin and Lucky. Don't think either one of those guys are going to flip. So I don't see it now. He's I don't know what Rivals has him listed as. He could be an interesting guy. Like if the staff really got creative and was like, hey, come to Athens and be like a receiver tight end hybrid, like that, talking about that receiver conversation we just had. Rivals has him listed at 6'6", 230.
So too, he may end up being, we like Sam Horn that is a backup quarterback right now at Missouri. We wondered if he would ever even play college football because he's such a good baseball prospect, and Deuce Robinson very good at baseball as well. I'm hearing he's got pro looks there from the baseball side of it, Trent, too.
That's a big strike zone, 6'6", 230. But yeah, you have to like the way Georgia's utilizing the tight ends, but bringing 3 top-tier tight ends in one class is hard to put your mind around. But I simply say no just for the fact that they have 2 good ones committed. That's without saying I have a lot of insight in what's going on in his head in a recruiting standpoint. Just from a numbers game, I would say no. Now, Georgia would for sure take him. The way Georgia likes to utilize his tight ends, and like Jed said, see if one hits the portal or what's going on with Gilbert and stuff like that. So we'll see what's happening.
Clock 11 says, Justice Haynes, do you think Kirby will push hard for an NIL flip? I mean, realize that question, Kirby can't technically by the rules push for an NIL flip. Now the Classic City Collective and some things like that could. I do think that's in play there in this situation. I do think that obviously one of the more coveted running backs in the country is going to have opportunities to capitalize on his name, image, and likeness. And, I'm sure that's a conversation with any program that is pursuing him. But Justice Haynes is going to be pursued until the ink's dried, Trent, in my opinion.
Yeah, and just looking at the way Alabama's performed up to this point, it would not surprise me if Alabama's got a new offense coordinator next year.
What are you talking about? Everybody's saying Bill O'Brien's going to be their next head coach.
I think there's a lot of unhappy people around that program. And looking at it, they said they were going to use the running back slot more this year. They've kind of haven't done that. They failed to do that at Texas when they had the opportunities to do that. It'll be interesting I think Justice Haynes is going to stay committed to Alabama all the way up until signing day. I'm not saying he's going to flip, but I'm saying if something did happen, it would probably be, closer to December.
Yeah, I concur on that 100%. And one thing we hope that you'll also agree with us on is Turner Wood & Smith and Auto Owners Insurance, guys. They're sponsors of UGASports Rumors versus Facts. If you are looking for quality insurance in terms of the policy provided and also the customer service and care that you're able to get from your agency, then Turner Wood & Smith Insurance in partnership with Auto Owners Insurance is the right combination for you. Life, home, car, business, Auto Owners Insurance can take care of it all for you. Give my guy Trey Wood a call over there at Turner, Wood, and Smith Insurance, located in Gainesville, but servicing, the entire Southeast and people around the country that do a great job. Both companies have been in existence for over 100 years, so they know what they're doing. They have the experience to take care of your family's needs for insurance. So check those guys out today. And then we've got a couple questions here left. What's the latest on Chris Peel? Jed, you and I were talking beforehand. Some of the people in the Rivals Network giving you a little update on Chris Peel lately.
Yeah, we as a UGA team have been hearing a ton about Georgia and Chris Peel. He obviously took an official visit, all that kind of stuff. Writers from the Michigan site and the NC State site have both been asking about Chris Peel, if Georgia is, not basically that Georgia has asking if Georgia has kind of waited too long for him to jump on board and maybe moving on to other targets. The people at the Michigan site feel good about where Michigan sits with him. So that's what other people in our network are hearing. Like you said, Blaine, we haven't heard a ton about Georgia and Chris Peel, and it kind of feels like one of those things where, and this is what I told our Josh Hinchke over at the Michigan site. If Chris Peel is going to jump on board, he surely had plenty of opportunities to do it. So could be one of those things where the longer it drags out, the more and more it looks like Chris Peel is going to be headed elsewhere, probably to Michigan. But we'll see. You never know with these guys. If Georgia gets him back on campus, things start picking back up again, he still very easily could end up in the Georgia class.
Looking at from Georgia's side is they have 4 commits already. Is it 4? So your numbers are already high, and you at the stage in the game where you can be picky. Not saying that that's what's going on here, but you're at the stage in the game where you can be picky. If you think you can flip a highly touted recruit, somebody a little bit higher on your board, you have the numbers to be a little bit picky, moving down the stretch.
Yeah, I mean, people forget sometimes. It just kind of goes into the deep recesses of people's brain, I think, and you got to remind them that Georgia has Justin Rhett, who they flipped from Notre Dame, AJ Harris, who everybody all but thought was going to Florida at one point, and things like that is going to be coming to Georgia. Daniel Harris, who they secured over Miami from Miami, Florida, big win for Georgia. And then Jonel Aguero, that was, being recruited hard by Miami as well. So 4 really good defensive backs, 3 guys that can primarily play corner, which I think is where they would want Chris Peel, is to play corner. So yeah, I don't know if the need is there as much. I think you look more in the safety area if Georgia's going to add a 5th DB, and that's why honestly missing out on the Caleb Downs was so big, because I think Georgia thought they could pair him and Aguero, and then you add that in on top of Malachi Starks and what he's doing this year. That would have been just a tremendous trio on the back end over there. But yeah, the defensive backs, as the Shining says here, high on DBs for the next few years. Absolutely. It's going to be stellar on the back end for Georgia for a while, especially under the tutelage of Will Muschamp and Fran Brown. I think that's a very, very nice combination, and I don't see either one of those going anywhere for a good while. All right, we got F. McCrary Jr. Which group of 3 would you choose if you could only have one? Jordan Hall, Russaw and Smith, or Mpemba, Damon Wilson and Hobbs? I'm taking Mpemba, Damon Wilson and Hobbs is who I would pick out of those. What are your guys' opinions?
Can I replace Hall with one of the guys on Mpemba's side and just take them?
Yeah. I mean, that's true. Like, I think I like, out of all the players, I honestly like Russaw more than any of them, but just because he's a absolute physical freak in terms of the weight room and just how hard he plays, and he's a kid that absolutely hates recruitment. He's anti all the glitz and the glam. I just think his mentality would fit perfectly in Georgia's defense. But being from Montgomery, Alabama, it's hard to pry some of those superstars out of that state, with Alabama and Auburn. Now, if things do go south with Brian Harsin, I think this becomes basically a two-way race between Georgia and Alabama for Rousseau and Smith, and could maybe even give a little bit of boost into Georgia's sales there. But Jed, what's your opinion on if you had to pick a group of three out of those?
Yeah, definitely Mpemba, Wilson, and Hobbs, especially having just seen Hobbs in person. I mean, dude was a game wrecker over in North Carolina when I saw him in the shadow of Charlotte Motor Speedway. But especially when you look at it from a roster projection standpoint, Georgia's going to lose Nolan Smith. They're going to lose Robert Beal at minimum at outside linebacker, and that's not to mention any potential portal departures or anything like that. So adding those three talented guys on top of Gabriel Harris, who's a little bit of a flex type there. I mean, he would be a great compliment to those three guys at outside linebacker. So definitely, I mean, Jordan Hall, Quay Rousseau, and James Smith, they're three very good players. But I think when you look at the talent of the other three combined with the needs Georgia has at outside linebacker in this cycle, I definitely think those three.
Yeah, I think, the thing about it with Mpemba, obviously everybody sees 5-star recruit. At one point was as high as I think it's number 2-3 in the country overall in prospects. I want everybody to understand, I think he's going to be a phenomenal player in college at some point, but I think it's going to take a little bit of time because this is a young man that is really getting used to playing defense. He was more of a tight end before and has flipped over to outside linebacker. In fact, before this year, there wasn't a ton of tape on him at outside linebacker. So people were having to evaluate basically off of athleticism and potential type deal. I think Georgia sits very good with Mpemba. Trent, you put in a future cast not too long ago. I put in a future cast over the weekend because kind of comparing notes and just things we're hearing from people around this recruitment. It seems like it's trending in the right way for Georgia, but I think Damon Wilson, I don't know that Georgia sits as well for Damon Wilson, but I like Damon Wilson a lot. I think he's the kind of fit, that versatile piece that can do a lot of stuff in a Georgia defense.
I think what's misunderstood a little bit about rankings is not all 5-star prospects are day one ready for college. They're basing that on their upside, NFL draft upside, basically.
Yeah.
So they think they're going to be a first-round pick eventually with the upside that they have. That doesn't make them day one ready in college. And I think that's where we look a lot of times is why ain't the 5-stars contributing? Well, they're not, Mpemba, for example, is going to take some time to develop. He like you said, he's new to the outside linebacker position. It's just going to take some more time to develop. When you got a guy like Damon Wilson, who's probably more day one ready, might not have the upside that Mpemba necessarily has when his just tools in general, but Wilson might be more day one ready for college. So I think that's just from a rankings perspective. I think a lot of people look at, they're a bust because they're not playing year one. It's not necessarily true. I think the upside's there. It's just they're just not as developed to from a body standpoint to play year one in college.
For sure. Andy Stowe ends the last question here for us, and I'll start with the wrestling question on the back end first because got to address that. Which Sting gimmick is your favorite? Surfer Sting, black and white, red and black, or the Joker? Man, I gotta go with the Surfer Sting back in the day, early '90s. Just kind of hits you right
hair
there. Yeah, absolutely. Taking on RoboCop and some of the terrible stuff that happened in the trash days of WCW. Gotta enjoy the awfulness of it back then. Do you think that the constant running back switching is making elite backs go elsewhere? Trent, I think that's more of a selling point for Georgia than it is a deterrent, because it's like, hey, look, you're going to have tread on the tires when you get to the league. You're not going to be worn out.
Yeah, I think that it's definitely been a selling point for years past, because it hasn't changed. Dale McGee's been the running back coach. They've rotated backs. They continue to put running backs in the first round or the high second round. And, they're producing in the NFL. Look at Nick Chubb yesterday. They have tread on the tires, and I know he's coming off that ACL surgery they had at Georgia, but there's tread on the tires to go do that. DeAndre Swift, I think, scored a touchdown yesterday too. So I don't think that's making elite backs go elsewhere necessarily. It's been a weird year with that, but Georgia got Branson Robinson last year. Who would have been?
Hey, by the way, that area that he had, I was like, I was like, is that Nick Chubb running the football right there? I mean, it was the acceleration and how big he is. Whoo, it was sporty looking.
No doubt. And I think, both backs Georgia got in last year's class are going to be good ones, but I don't think it's pushing elite guys away. I think, this has been a weird year with a running back because Georgia kind of put all their eggs in one basket to begin with Justice Haynes, and that didn't, go in Georgia's favor and his commitment. So I think there's more evaluating going on. I do still think Georgia's going to land an elite running back in this class. A Rivals 100 type running back. So, but to your question, I don't think that's pushing elite running backs away.
No, I don't think so either. And guys, we've kind of covered all the bases here in terms of the latest in Georgia football recruiting. Jed, anything coming up what is coming up on the website that they need to know about over the next few days?
Yeah, I'll have a story on David Hobbs, who I went and saw last week. Georgia is pushing hard for him. It kind of seems like Georgia and Alabama are the main two people there, and then making a return trip to Phoenix City to watch the Fighting Red Devils take on IMG Academy, because IMG Academy is going to be within 3 hours of me. So with the gravitational pull of all those stars is going to drive me back to Phoenix City. So a lot of guys, Gabriel Harris, Sam Mpemba, who we were just talking about, Jarrett Gibson in 2024, Jimothy Lewis, Winston Watkins, 25 receiver, as a Georgia, offer a ton of talent on the field, not to mention AJ Harris playing for Central Phoenix City. So be there Friday night, and then back in Athens Saturday for recruits in a game against Kent State.
No doubt. It's gonna be some fun. Another fun weekend of high school football action. We'll be putting where we're going on Friday, all the details on the prospects and all that kind of stuff on our on the road piece that comes out. So make sure that you are subscribed, a member of UGASports.com. Subscribe to the channel. Now, guys, I'm gonna go get ready to go to bed. Do a little Bible study and pray for Florida while I'm at it, because they're gonna need it this weekend when they go up to Knoxville. The way that their run defense has looked the last couple of weeks, so it's gonna be interesting stuff.
There's no time in your prayers to pray for Florida, buddy.
Absolutely, they're gonna need it for sure. All right, so for Trent Smallwood, Jed May, I'm Blaine Gilmer. We'll catch you guys next time on UGA Sports, Rumors versus Facts, presented by Auto Owners Insurance and Turner Wood Smith Insurance.